Hello everybody, I'm Dr. Ben Quist.
And I'm fitness expert Jeremiah Kruger.
And today we're going to talk to you about your thoracic spine.
I'm using that. I'm not using the real one.
All right, so we all know that there are three parts to your spine. We've got the cervical spine, which in our little model here is pictured in, would you call that a lavender, Jeremiah?
That is a lavender.
Lavender, it's a lavender. Does anyone know what this little bone is right here, this little bone? It's your hyoid bone. One of the only bones that I believe it's like just encased in muscle. It doesn't really have like a joint attachment. I could be wrong. All right, moving down, here is the thoracic spine, our topic for today. It is this blue zone right here. And then finishing at the bottom, we've got our lumbar spine in green. The reason that the thoracic spine is so important is that it kind of is like the bridge between those two spinal levels, the cervical and the lumbar. And if you get tight here at this thoracic spine, it can really create injuries above stream or below stream. And we all know that this lumbar section, this is where 80% of us will have a major injury in this lumbar spine area within their lifetime. And so anything we can do to avoid that, I think, is a good thing to do. Why does this thoracic spine become tight? Why is it so tight? And the real reason for it, in my mind, is people spend way too much time sitting, way too much time with video games, way too much time slumped over. And the thoracic spine already has kind of a natural bend or kyphotic curve into flexion. And when you sit all the time, it just gets further and more kyphotic. And the further it flexes forward, the less range of motion it's going to have into the different things that it needs to do. So let's talk a little bit about what the thoracic spine does, what the cervical spine does, and what the lumbar spine does. So the cervical spine is where we get a lot of flexion and extension at your head, right? It bends down, extends up, a lot of that going on there. There's also a level of the cervical spine that allows for lots of rotation, right, left. It also does side bending. So a lot of motion happening up here. When we get down to the thoracic spine, there's a lot less motion, but some of the motions that it does are really, really important. And the primary motion that the thoracic spine does is rotation, okay? So it's a rotator. It has a little bit of side bending at some of the levels, a little bit of flexion extension, but not a ton. So it is that workhorse of rotation. And if it can't do its job and it can't rotate, guess what doesn't rotate really well? Your lumbar spine. So the lumbar spine does not have a ton of rotation. And again, it's because of the orientation of the facet joints along each of those vertebral levels. And the lumbar spine is the workhorse of flexion extension, okay? So it really rounds your back and it extends your back, you know? So if you can't rotate well because you've gotten so tight in your thoracic spine, when you try to rotate, guess what two levels of the spine have to kind of take up some of that slack, and they don't really like it? The lumbar spine and the cervical area, you know? So that's why it's really important to keep a flexible, mobile, properly working thoracic spine. So that begs the question of how do you know if your thoracic spine is tight? So we have done a video on that. It's right here if you want to check out your spine and see. But most people are tight at the thoracic spine past the age of 30, and many younger people are as well. So it's a really good idea to check that out. And if you are tight, we're going to show you in a few moments how to fix that with 3 simple things that you can do on a daily basis to mobilize that area. And when you do mobilize it, you are going to feel so much better.
Immediately.
It unlocks your spine. Like you can reach and pick things up better. You can move better. You don't know how good you're going to feel until you mobilize that thoracic spine with all the other movements that you're doing in your body. So check out these 3 moves. Here's step number 1 in your thoracic spine mobility program. This first one is a self-myofascial release. You can do this with either a standard foam roll, or if you want a little extra, you can do this with a Roga. I like the Roga a little bit better because it's got this cutout right here, and that is basically a spot for your spinous processes to kind of fit in, while these 2 little knobs on the side really roll through the paraspinals of the thoracic spine as you're mobilizing. So I'm going to do it with this. What you do is pop your roller down to about the lower tips of your shoulder blades. And again, if you're using a Roga, you want that notch right on the spinous process, or those bumps that come out of your back. Hands behind the head to support the neck, bridge the hips up, and then slowly roll from the bottom of your shoulder blades up to the top of your shoulder blades. The more pain that you feel with this just means that it's tighter If you're not feeling much discomfort with this at all and it feels pretty comfortable, that just means that these muscles are not that tight, which that would be a good thing. I typically roll back and forth for roughly about 30 seconds. Once you complete the 30 seconds, you're going to take the roller, roll it all the way to the bottom edge of the shoulder blades, drop your hips down, then hands behind the head. You're going to extend back to add a little bit of extension to that thoracic spine. Hold for one breath. Come on up. Then roll kind of to midpoint of the thoracic spine between those shoulder blades. Extend back again. Hold for one deep breath. Come up. And then roll up to the upper edge of the shoulder blades and give it one more extension. And bring it up. All right, step number 1 done. We're ready to go on to step number 2. Now that the muscle tissue is loose and the brakes have been released with that rolling technique, we're going to move into an extension, passive range of motion stretch, really for the entire spine. And the reason that this is important, we already talked about this, that thoracic spine, and actually this is basically the disembodied head of Jeremiah, and this is his spine. His thoracic spine, or anybody's thoracic spine, has that little bit of a kyphotic curve. And as that curve gets accentuated, or if it becomes too kyphotic from too much sitting, too much texting, things of that nature, the thoracic spine will not move as well and it will not rotate as well. So this passive range of motion stretch into extension, really for the entire spine that I'm going to show you in a moment, is really important, and it's critical to getting this area loosened up and ready for action. When you do this stretch, there are 2 different items you can use to do it. The first would be a back bridge or similar product that you can get on Amazon. Basically, these types of products are just kind of like the hump of a camel. Usually they can adjust how high the hump is, so depending on where your level of flexibility is, you can either make the apex for the stretch a little bit taller, or you can make the apex a little bit lower. The other thing you can always use is a TheraBall. Since most of you have a Swiss ball or TheraBall at home, I'm going to show this stretch using the TheraBall. Hop on your ball, and then you're going to grab some dumbbells. Typically you're going to grab something in the range of 3 pounds to 5 pounds. Since I'm pretty used to this one, I usually do about 5 pounds. Oh, jeez. Okay, so then you're going to extend over the ball. You're going to take your arms out straight, and then you're going to lower them backwards, allowing your shoulders to stretch into flexion. So you're going to feel that in your lats. You're going to feel that through your abs in the front, and really your entire spine. You're reversing the curve of the spine, so you're going into extension at all 3 levels of the spine. And this stretch feels really, really good. We spend way too much time flexed in our lives, and it's always a really nice thing to take a moment in your day to just reverse that flex position and get into a more extended position. Typically, you're going to hold this for roughly about a minute or 2. It feels so good, you might even want to do it a little bit longer. So we've now mobilized the tissue, we've now passively stretched into extension, and now we're going to stretch into thoracic rotation with an active stretch. And we already talked about the fact that the thoracic spine's main job is rotation, so this is a great movement pattern to do that. First thing you're going to do is splay your knees, sit your butt back onto your heels, and place your forearm directly between your knees. Now the reason that we got to get back onto our butt, as far as the butt hitting the heels, is that flexes the lumbar spine, and that puts that lumbar spine at what's called the close pack position, which means it won't move much in that position, and it will skew the rotation that we're about to do up into the thoracic spine, so we get more effective rotation with this stretching pattern. You want to have a rubber band basically attached to a heavy piece of equipment just lateral to you, and then you're going to grab the rubber band with the hand that is obviously not down on the ground, and you're going to press that arm out straight. From there, you're going to allow the rubber band to give you an assisted stretch back into thoracic rotation. Oh, that feels so good. Okay, woo, that feels great. Now, you're going to press actively back through, getting your arm parallel with the floor. The arm is at a 90-degree position at the shoulder joint, and you want to do several reps of this. So this really actively and passively, assistively stretches into that thoracic rotation. It's a phenomenal stretch. I think I might have invented this stretch, I'm not sure. I'm going to call this the modified twist. I typically do anywhere from 5 to 8 reps. It feels so good. It's something you might want to do for a good minute or 2. So you get one side, then you would reset your position on the opposite side of the body. Same setup, rubber band would come from the other direction, and we would repeat those reps on the other side. All right, your thoracic spine is unlocked. Thank you all for watching. The thoracic spine is something that Jeremiah and I both mobilize on a daily basis. He's pretty young, I'm pretty old, but it's important no matter what age you are, because as someone who's been in the gym environment for 30 years, I've seen so many individuals that maybe even looked really great in their 50s, but as they're getting into their 60s, they end up with back pain, they end up not being able to move, they end up getting horrific surgeries where they're never quite the same again because they've not spent enough time on the mobility component like we're showing you. So this stuff, in my mind, especially once you get past the age of 30, is more important than having big biceps. It's more important than having good chest development. Yes, of course, we still want that, but it has to come from a foundation of really thoughtful, good mobility first.
And then from the younger perspective, my generation and younger, video games are very popular. And the position we spend a lot of our time in is the exact opposite of what you want to be doing. So think about that when you extrapolate that 30 years down the line. 30 years of video games in this position, you really got to spend time fighting that.
I still play video games. It doesn't have to just be a younger thing. I play video games. What? Thank you guys for watching.
Please like the video. Please subscribe. We love that you tune into our videos consistently, and we'd like to hear ideas from you guys.
What do you want to hear? What do you want us to do? Anybody who comments below, we'll do that video next.
Careful.
Bye.
Have a good day.